Yes, and we're live. Whoop, are we? No. Can you also hear the countdown that keeps on, or is it just me?
I
No?
think it might just be you, Fred.
I think it's just you, man.
Okay, there is.
It says we're live and things are counting. Hopefully, people will comment and laugh at us for our lack
I
of
know what's happening.
professionalism.
I think I have YouTube open on something. I'm
What are you new at streaming, Fred? Like, come on, you
yeah.
know better than this, man. Gotta mute everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Now
people
I
are
realize what's
commenting.
happening. Yeah, sorry for this chaotic beginning. Like I just realized that I had YouTube open on another tab, and I was hearing myself with a 10-second delay, and that was really odd. I'm really sorry about that. It's going really well. It starts really perfectly. So I just wanted to say hi and welcome to the Consim Game Jam #2 kickoff. Everything is fine. Very well organized. We're just 18 months late, so no big deal. So I'm Fred Serval, co-founder of the Consim Game Jam, and I'm here with Peter Evans and Corey Graham, both former participants of the Consim Game Jam that happened, Consim Game Jam #1 in 2020, I think, something like this. So it was already a while ago. So for those of you who don't know, the Consim Game Jam is a board game design event during which participants have to make a game in 3 days. Tonight, we're here to start this event and explain to the participants how it will go, reveal this edition's theme because every edition has a specific theme and set of rules, and take a bit of time to answer the questions. We also have some members of the jury that are here tonight, and that's really nice, and they're going to give you a bit their expectations for what they hope to see in the submissions. And we have a surprise guest at the end to talk a bit about their experience going through the game jam. Keep in mind that we'll try to take some questions during the stream, but you can also ask them on Discord if you're a participant. So don't worry if we don't understand if we don't answer everything. But I think that's it for the intro, and let's jump into it. And I see that there is already quite a lot of people in the chat, so that's great. Thanks all of you for being here. And I must say, before we start, I'm pretty excited to see the activity on the Discord server already. A lot of teams already preparing their historical background and everything, and I hope we're gonna crush some dreams and some some spirits by revealing something that is gonna destroy all that preparation ahead of time. But I don't know, what have you seen, Peter, on the server that spiked your interest?
Oh, well, Fred Flag over Paris, of course, which is my background at the moment. I can't remember which team it was that coined that. I remember the guys that are in the team.
Yeah, it's the Cross Boys.
But
The Cross
the
Boys.
Cross
That's their
Boys,
name.
that's
Yeah.
it, yeah. So that one stood out. We've got some very interesting map design going on in another
Yeah.
team centered in West Africa, which I won't say anything more because I don't want to give any spoilers. And lots of Finnish, which I can't really follow or understand, but there are a lot of GIFs in that group.
Yeah, so the Finnish team, the Finnish team, the other time around was probably the most epic team. They all over the weekend shared some pictures of their process and everything, and I was really thinking I just want to spend the weekend with them. Like that was really cool. I think the name of their team this time around is Finnish Thunderhands, because for each Consim Game Jam, we generate the name for the teams randomly. Last time around, it was random Pokemon names. And this time it is random rock band names. So yeah, just put in a few keywords in there, and then it generated the names out of it. But I think we can probably jump into it. So because I'm somewhat prepared, I actually have a bit of a slide deck here. But before we start, I realized that Corey, I didn't ask you: is there anything on the server that already sparked your excitement, like got your attention? Anything else?
I mean, our August Lemmings made an excellent Hexen Lemming image that really makes me think of like Wargame meets emo band. I'm here for this.
Yeah, they have an amazing logo. I think it's really insane. And seeing this, I hope that the same level of um, of of art direction is going to be into the submission. I'm really looking forward to this.
I might swap background halfway through.
Yeah,
But
just to have them on. I think that would be only fair. That would be
I
only fair.
realised, Fred, that we've got a dream to crush already because
Yeah.
Stuart has suggested that Volko might be the special guest.
So to my knowledge, Volko didn't participate in the previous Consim Game Jam, so that would be a big surprise even to me. So no, it's not going to be Volko, at least not that I'm aware of. So just a few notes for you to know, because this event wouldn't exist without them. Just a mention of the organizers that are here to kind of help the participants during the event and make things go smoothly. So we have Sean O'Keefe that is not here tonight because I think it's the middle of the night for him. Like he's covering the other half of the globe. Peter that is here tonight. Corey Graham that is also here, that you might know under the name Chaos Goat on Discord. So if you see that, that's him. And Joe Schmidt, who's still at work, so couldn't make it tonight. But those are the 5 people who are working on making sure that the events go smoothly, worked on the rules, coordinated with the jury, and did all of this. So thanks to all of you to take the time and make this event possible. So that's really, really cool. I just want to mention something that is quite important, that out of those 5 people, 3 of them were former participants of the Consim Game Jam. So when they tell you that it's possible to make a game in 72 hours, they speak from experience. They've done it. And on a side note, even if Sean didn't participate in the Consim Game Jam, he's actually been working with projects on projects with Joe Dewhurst, and I think they actually made an expansion or something around Cuba Libre in 48 hours on the Bay of Pigs, and we'll talk about this later during the weekend. And I myself made a game in 48 hours for Punch Magazine. So it is possible. It sounds impossible, but it is actually very achievable. It's probably not going to be great, but it's going to be fun. So that's the idea. I don't know if you have any specific questions to the organizers. If you do, you can put your questions in the chat. And if not, or not right now, we can also take your question on the Discord server. And then there is one question from Pierre that asks, do we need to take notes or will the slides be shared afterwards? Everything would be shared afterwards. You'll have the deck and you'll have an actual very official kind of document specifying the rules that has been written by Joe Schmidt, and that is extremely detailed to a point that I never expected, because the last edition of the Consim Game Jam was basically the rules were just on a post-it note. So it's clearly a step up in that regard, and we'll share everything. And I can see, Peter, that you have the logo now. Yes,
Yeah.
It's a very nice logo.
There you go.
Amazing art direction. So that's for the organizers. Just a bit of an overview of the program and what you should expect over the weekend. So right now we're doing the kickoff. So that means that after this session, you're going to know what's the theme, everything that you need to know to get started, so you can start working on the jam. Every day from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. UTC, we are going to have a check-in with the organizers and sometimes member of the jury. And it's just going to be on the server. We're going to be in the general chat and in the voice chat. And that's going to be just taking a coffee together, having a bit of a check-in, and you can come. You don't have to come, but if you have a few questions or just want to exchange with other participants, this is the perfect time to do so. Then tomorrow at 2 p.m. UTC, we're going to have a first intervention. And this one is going to be from Joe Dewhurst. Joe Dewhurst is a game designer, but also a game developer for GMT Games. And he's going to share some game design tips and tricks, especially for fast iteration and fast prototyping, which is definitely the focus of the event. Then also tomorrow at 7 p.m. UTC, we have Donald Hegarty, which is a graphic designer that has worked on quite a few games for GMT and Rollenspiel. And he's going to share some tips and tricks for game art and making it fast and making it efficient, and give you some tips on a specific component that is actually quite important for this year's edition. And then on Saturday, halfway through, you're going to have Saverio Spagnoli, who was the member of the team that won the previous Consim Game Jam, that is going to come and spend a bit of time with all of the participants to talk about his experience and how he survived the Consim Game Jam the other way around, and hopefully give you some tips and potentially the right tips to win this year's edition. And on Sunday night, we expect you to send us your submissions. But now the question is, what is a submission? So a bit of an overview on the submissions. Once again, everything would be way more detailed in the rules that you're going to have on the Discord server. But what we expect, if I have to give you a broad overview, is we want to have a one-page presentation of the game, where you're going to have a description of the game, what's the theme, what are the mechanics, what you're trying to represent with the game, how it works, etc. Then we expect you to deliver a prototype. So that means having the rules, the artwork for the components and everything, and a digital prototype. That's already a pretty big challenge because making a digital prototype, if you have never made one, requires you to learn how to make a digital prototype. That's not as hard as it seems. If you already have experience with Vassal, it's fine if you make a prototype in Vassal. I would recommend probably TTS, which is probably the easiest one to pick up. So if you can make a prototype on TTS, that's also perfect. And there are other alternatives. I think screentop.gg is also a perfectly valid alternative. So anything that you can share and that the jury will be able to play in a digital format is necessary for submission. And then we expect that you deliver a 5 or 10-minute overview of your game with a game presentation and an overview of the gameplay, not into too many details, but giving that all context for the game. And this is everything to help the jury evaluate your game. I guess the next question is, how will the jury evaluate? And on this, thanks a lot, Peter, for working on the criterias. So if you've participated in the previous Consim Game Jam, one of the biggest frustration for the participants was that we didn't really think about how the game were going to be evaluated, which says a lot about the level of organization or thought that we had ahead of the process. So this year, what we're doing is that we established guidelines for the jury to evaluate each of the submissions. There is 4 categories of indicators that we have, and basically what the jury is going to look at is, does it respect the theme of this year edition? So did you respect the limits in terms of components? Did you use those limits in a creative way? And all this, and the theme I'm going to explain right after this. The second thing is how innovative it is. So in terms of theme, so how the topic that you picked, is it innovative? Is it interesting? And the mechanics that you're using to depict that event. How clear it is, so how playable the rules clear. Do you have good usability in your components? I really want to stress the fact that it doesn't need to look good. It needs to work well more than anything. And I think that's probably something that is important to keep in mind. And then the fourth category is the potential of the game, how close it is to be a finally completely playable prototype that can be shared with a broader audience. Here, I just want to say something, and Peter, if you want to say more around this, because that's also something that we discussed, and Corey, also feel free to jump in, is we don't necessarily want you to do something that is going to be publishable. That's not really the aim. We want you to have fun and engage with game design, but it's really not, it shouldn't be your focus about how commercially viable it is. So this is the thing when we're saying the potential of the game, we're not thinking about commercial viability. We're thinking about potential in it to be a final polished game. Whether or not it's commercially viable doesn't really matter. Because obviously we don't expect you to have a perfectly polished game after 72 hours. I don't know if you had any of you, Peter or Corey, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think you summed it up in terms of it's not about commercial publication. It's about, does it have the potential to be a good game? Obviously, good is subjective, but that's what the judges will be evaluating. But yeah, it's that, can we see this going somewhere? Can it be finished? Maybe experienced designers might question if a game is ever finished, but finished enough.
Finished enough. That's a good. And Corey, do you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I did. So there's like 2 goals here, right? For evaluation, can it be finished? Is it good? Is it respectful of the material? Those things. That being said, the goal of the people participating in the game jam should be to design a game. All right, especially if you've never designed a game before, that is the most important thing. Design something. Just get a game out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and that's also one of the reasons that we made that event. Is we want you to fail fast and just iterate and see that. Yeah, that's the whole purpose of the process. Come up with an idea, iterate on it, and just have fun with the process of designing. That's a really good point. And there is a question from Maurice, and yes, there is waiting for each of those 4 points, and actually behind each of those 4 points, you have a set of specific criteria that each have a certain number of points, and the judging criteria will also be shared on the Discord server, so you can see it in a bit more detailed, and we can answer a question once we've shared it on Discord. So I hope that answers your question. I guess if I'm not wrong, Oh yeah, the next slide is what's the theme. So that's the thing there, because we've been dancing around for a while, and so we haven't announced it yet, and this is the first time that you're going to see it. So what do we expect you to do during that second edition of the Consim Game Jam? The theme is make a card-driven card game. So the idea is that you have two main concepts here that you have to think about. We expect you to make a CDG within the what you expect of a CDG, and this explains also why we have the people that we have in the jury. We want you to make a card-driven game in that specific tradition. So we want to feel like it's a card-driven game, like if you're playing Washington's War, like if you're playing Twilight Struggle, and those kinds of game. But with this specific constraint, the whole game needs to be working with cards only. And of course, you could decide to make a map based on cards, but if you don't use the cards in an interesting way, well, that's not going to be great for the way you respected the theme. So we want you to play around the fact that you're making a card-driven game, only based on cards. So that's the constraint that you have for this. The limits are you have to use up to 44 cards, and you can use up to 54 components. So those components could be dice, tokens, counters, anything you wish, but this is the limit that you have. So to the team that has worked really hard ahead of time, thinking it was smart to start making a map. So I'm really sorry to say that. It's probably great thinking, and it's awesome that you've been thinking about that, but you'll have to rethink a bit your framework around this. Of course, we can answer some questions that you might have, but yeah, so that's the idea of the theme that is gonna be driving this Consim Game Jam number 2. Any thoughts on this, maybe Peter? I don't know if what do you think about the constraint?
I think it will be tricky myself, but I'm not good at designing card interactions, so that's a very particular perspective to be coming from. I think there are some innovative ways in which one could come up with ways to around the absence of a map. An obvious one would be utilizing cards as some kind of geographical indicator, for example. I don't want to say too much though, because I don't really want to do the thinking, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. And I think there is a lot of ideas, and there are a lot of games that use cards in an interesting way to represent geography. I think if you remove the board from a few acres of snow, there is probably something to be thought about using just the card system and the abstract connections. I think the pack series also does interesting things without like a geographical board in some of their games. So I think there is a lot of ideas to be taken from other games, but those are the limits.
Would be another good one.
Which one?
After Pablo.
Oh yes, After Pablo is an excellent one. It does have a board though, but I think you can probably do without.
I think it's like a PAX, isn't it? It's inverted PAX, and you could probably do it without the board.
Wow, where'd you hear that one before, Peter? An inverted PAX?
Inverted PAX. It's just something I've heard.
Just something you've heard. Okay. Yeah, no, I think it just, it's important to think about what a CDG typically is, right? You have your multi-use cards. That's generally a big thing. They don't have to be, but it's kind of a big part of CDG design is having cards that don't just do one thing.
And maybe on this there, because I realized that on the slide before I actually kind of revealed the theme before revealing the theme. But there is something that I would recommend the participants to look at. Is there is actually a video on this channel where you have Jason Matthews, Mark Herman, and Volko Runke talking about card-driven games, why they think it is, where it comes from, how it's structured in different families. And because 2 out of those 3 guests are actually part of your jury, I would highly recommend that you go and watch this video to think about the way they think about CDGs, because that's going to be pretty important. And there is another video earlier this year where Candice and I are playing Virsinda's Volk. And if you want to have a bit of an idea on what she likes when she's playing a CDG, the kind of mechanics that interest her and everything, I also recommend to look at this video. So yeah, promoting my content, but I do think there is value in doing a bit of research ahead of time on this. Maybe we should talk a bit about the jury now, if that's okay. So pretty prestigious jury, pretty happy that we regrouped those 3 people together for evaluating your submissions. I'm really excited to have them. So we have Candice from BGG. For me, Candice is the face of wargaming at BGG, so I'm super happy to have her with us. Mark Herman, that is not here tonight, but that would be here in spirit, and Jason Matthews. And actually, we have two members of the jury here with us. So that's really great to have the two of you being here. And I'm going to remove the slides for now and maybe discuss a bit with you. And what I wanted to ask you is, so based on the theme for this year, what would you say are your expectations towards the submission that the participants are going to submit? And maybe we can start with you, Candice, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me here. I did not realize I was kind of filling Volko's shoes. But yeah, I love CDGs. And one of the things that kind of excites me recently is, number one, just fresh historical topics. And then I've also been enjoying a lot of games like Dan Bullock's, like 1979 Revolution Iran, that not only have a fresh topic, but are doing something different with the way it feels to play a CDG, where, you know, you have cards with ops and events and everything, but the way they're used in context of the whole game are a little different. And I'm really glad, Fred, that you brought up Versendas Volk, because that was another one that came to mind, with the, you know, drafting cards from the market. And, you know, again, 1979 also has like 2 players drafting cards. But then you have other games like Brotherhood and Unity that are exploring different topics that a lot of people aren't familiar with and can learn a lot about. And they're just becoming a little more accessible. So I'm looking forward to trying some games that, and, you know, checking out all these games. But I'm looking for games that had like that tension and great hand management aspect to them. As well as just some kind of like different historical topic that's a little more rare is always interesting to me. But yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
Great. But thank you very much for sharing that. And I guess now I'll pass the mic to you, Jason, and let us know a bit what are your expectations for this year's edition.
So I'm with Candice for sure, that in that I prefer my history to be a little bit obscure. So the more off the beaten path, the more I'm inclined to be intrigued. But in addition, I think one of the interesting components of this year's challenge is that you've essentially required the designers to think more abstractly about how they're going to represent geography, or how important geography is going to be to this particular conflict. So in a certain sense, it opens up topics where a conflict doesn't have that much to do with geography. So that's one way to approach the challenge. And then in another sense, what can you do that's innovative around representing geography that doesn't require a static map board? A lot of games have toyed with this over the years, but I'm not sure that we brought home a lot of those lessons learned, and this design challenge is an opportunity to explore that a little further and maybe push the state of the art a bit on those boundaries.
Thanks, Jason. And I think that based on your thoughts, the two of you, I think it provides like a good context for what are the expectations, and thanks for providing this. Just an additional note on this. So we expect the jury to give the final results the 6th of September. But I just want to mention that if everything goes well, you have to understand that this is, as you can see, it is a bit of a loose kind of organization. So that's what we aim for. The jury might need a bit of extra time. They have quite a lot of work on the side and everything. So I just want to make sure that don't expect that it's a contractual date that I'm giving you. It's more of an objective that we give to ourselves. And that's it. I see that there are already quite a few questions regarding the limitations. So regarding the cards, 54 is just the maximum number of cards. You can use up to 54 cards. And as Corey was saying, that obviously there is no minimum, but if there are no cards in your game and just the tokens, where you probably missed the topic of the game, that's for sure. Unless you come up with something pretty wild, but I would be surprised. So do you have any questions to our jury before we move on and kick them out of the stream? And we have another question here from Bill. Would a map that is drawn in play a la Quiet Year count as a component, or is giving players a pencil cheating? That's actually an interesting thought. I didn't expect that question, so I don't think we have an answer yet. But I think that's an interesting thought, and probably something that we'll have to go back to, Bill. And actually, I would recommend that you ask that question at admins within the design channel of the server, because I think that's actually potentially an interesting discussion for us to have. The idea is that I think the fact that pen and paper are completely available at home anywhere, and they're not really considered game components, makes this question a bit in the gray area. So an interesting one to think about, and that we could give you an answer on. I think it's a super interesting thought. Any other comments that you, Candice, or Jason wanna share?
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah. Have
Yes.
fun.
Yes, good luck, have fun. I think that's the spirit. But thanks for being here with us tonight. I hope that you'll be able to come over on the server during the event. You've both been invited. Candice, we've already seen you coming over and saying hi and talking about your interest in winemaking, apparently. So I think that's great. So keep on and distract them in that way. I think that that's what they need.
Cool.
But great. Thanks again for being here, and thanks
Thank
again
you.
for being part of the jury. That's super exciting. Good.
Sure.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye-bye. And I guess we'll move on the practical stuff. So the practical stuff is what happens if you win. So the first thing that I would like to do is thanks our sponsor, GMT Games. GMT has been the sponsor last time and is the sponsor this time around. And just want to stress, if you win, you're not going to be published. So the idea is not to publish a game, and that's not what we're promising. But you get free games, and those free games are provided by GMT. So all of the team members of the finalist teams are going to have a free game sent to them by GMT, and that's really awesome to have that kind of support. And that's the thing that I wanted to say. So thanks to the sponsor, get some free games, but the objective of the event is to have fun. And that's something that I think we wanted to stress a lot. And I see you nodding, Peter, this idea that, the outcome is not supposed to be a published game, but to have fun engaging with game design. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
I don't think so, particularly. I think last time it was a bit of an unusual outcome in that all three designs that made the podium have ended up going for publication in some form or another. But I wouldn't want people to feel like you have to meet that kind of standard. I think the way we've got the scoring criteria here, it's more focused on things like theme, mechanic, integration, potential, those kinds of things. We really wanted to bed in the idea that this is a jam for everybody. It's not for pro amateur designers only, or people who've got things already. And I suppose it is worth saying, last time around, the winning team were actually unpublished of the three podium finishers. So it's entirely possible to pull something together that impresses the judges starting from zero experience. So yeah, just give it a go and see how you get on.
Yes. Corey, anything? Because you were part of a winning team, so you might have some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, don't expect publishing for a variety of reasons. It's not just that it's not the prize. That is a long, hard road. We were published from that, but also the game's not out 2 years later, a little under 2 years later. So it's a lot of a time commitment. You'll hear more about that here in a second. Also, being publishable is not necessarily a mark of quality, and I'm not talking about our game in that. There's a billion games on the Bulge. There's
I'm thinking about specific publishers right now, and
well, I was thinking more of like terms of content, right? Like a lot of games that are maybe super niche are not necessarily going to be publishable, even if they are really, really good, right? Like how many games in Haiti are there?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and because we wanna reward innovation that much, so that shouldn't be too much of a concern.
I love the fact you specified, Corey, that your game isn't one of those ones that's being published that is of low quality, though.
I wasn't sure if I was sounding bitter because that was not the intention there.
No, it's good. It's humble bragging. I respect that. We have a question from Evan Walter, and yes, a draw bag is fine because actually it can be a cup you have at home, and you would just put one of those 54 components in it. So this is completely okay. Good, but I think that gives like concludes more the practical side of it. So as I said, we'll share the complete rules. They will be available on the website. You'll have the judging criteria, so everything would be available. And I would like to conclude with a few words from a previous participants that I'm very happy that we have with us this evening. Saverio Spagnoli, thanks for being here with us. And maybe you can briefly introduce yourself and your relationship with the Consim Game Jam to start with.
Hey everyone, I'm Saverio Spagnoli. I got to know this group just through the Coin Discord server in the middle of a very tumultuous time of human history in 2020, and just happened to jump into this contest without having had a specific game design experience. I just always eventually thought I would do something like that in my life, but didn't think it would be now. And I'm, especially for the people who haven't done this before, I'm very excited for you, because at the other end of this thing, I think you're going to realize that it's possible to create something of this type, and it's really exciting to have that in your back pocket. Yeah, I think I'm going to come back on Saturday with more detailed thoughts about some perspectives on maybe how this could go. Thank you, Mr. Goat. I've participated in other similar types of contests before, but in applied mathematics, and I'm an applied mathematician in my day job. And I also train students to compete in a mathematical modeling competition, which has some similar features. And so on Saturday, I think maybe I'll have more to say about some techniques that are useful in this kind of venue. But to jump the gun on that just a little bit, because there isn't that much time before now and when I'll jump back on, I'll say something that's quite obvious, but still, no matter how clear it seems, to fully internalize it seems to be something that requires experience. And that is simply, you have less time than you think you do. And so if you can come up with a minimal model, something that's working, just the tiniest little thing that's working by even, let's say, the end of the first day, that will pay off a lot. And if you can hold off on the bells and whistles until later. I'll have other thoughts that will be of questionable value to you on Saturday, but I'm very excited for everyone for this. This is so fun. This is such a good memory for me to have engaged in this contest before, and I'm excited to see what comes out of it. There was just, especially last time, being the only time, but with the theme that you've selected, I can envision a lot of really cool stuff coming out of this and a lot of innovation, and I'm really excited to see it. And that was one of the best parts of competing, was in addition to all the exciting and dynamic interactions I was having with my teammates, it was just such a great environment just on the server, looking at the other teams and what they were posting and just seeing these great ideas flying around. And it was just really a cool social event, in addition to, again, the feeling of completion of, oh my gosh, I can actually build a thing like that. And that will be a really nice feeling for those of you who have not yet done this.
Great, but thanks a lot, Sav. I'm really looking forward to you coming back on Saturday and motivating everyone and giving sharing some thoughts on how it went last time around. But I think that concludes everything that we had to say. We have a few extra questions. I'm looking in the chat, and even is there any extra points for making a solo version of the game? No. There, maybe even the opposite. And actually, Pierre, exactly, that's my point. If I had anything to do with it, you're actually gonna get a penalty for making a solo version of it. No, I'm not the jury anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's not one of the judging criteria, so that's probably something you can work on after the event. And actually, we recommend that if you had fun with your submission, to keep on working on it after, even if you are not a finalist or anything.
I would say there's no restriction on making it a solo game.
Correct.
It can be solitaire game.
In the first place.
Yeah. But don't put loads of effort into trying to make a game solitaire. You know, GMT have a whole team of people who do that for games, and it takes months to pass all the instructions and so on. So don't do it to yourself, is what I would say.
It
And also-
takes months, and it will drive you insane.
Yeah, and also solo games are super boring. So so maybe don't do that. No, I'm joking, half joking. No, but that's completely fine. But I would say go solo if it's the core, like the core of your game. I wouldn't say create a solo mode. I think it's going to be way too hard to contain within the game jam. So, and I think that actually the submission from Jason Carr last time around was by design a solo game. And it was super interesting. So if you go straight into thinking straight about a solo submission, I would say definitely go for it. That would be super interesting. Good. But I think that's pretty much it. I don't see any other question in the chat. I don't know if any of you have a final comment, and we still have Candace here. So actually, Candace, if you have a final comment, you can say something. But I think we're good. Any last thoughts?
No, I'm good. I'm excited.
I'd say if you've got any other questions, if any questions come to mind later, we'll be hanging around. I may have dropped in and bothered some of you in your channels, or just pop the question in the general chat. And yeah, we're going to be around. We've got a couple of shifts covering as well. So I'd hesitate to say we'll have 24-hour coverage with everybody. But
no, probably not. But thanks to Sean on the other side, I think we should be able to cover most of it.
Yeah.
But I think that would be it for tonight. I hope that you all have fun. We're super excited to have you, and super excited to see what submissions are gonna go out of those 3 days. Enjoy, everyone, and see you in a while. Bye bye. Have fun.
Bye, guys.
Bye.